Ever wondered why the early bird gets the worm? Maybe because the worm also wakes up early. But why can't we humans do the same? Is it because our worms are metaphorical, or do we just love our beds too much? Well, let's dive into this early bird conundrum. Picture this, a bird, up at the crack of dawn, chirping away, ready to face the day. Now, picture us hitting the snooze button for the 5th time, bargaining with the universe for 5 more minutes of sleep. Seems pretty unfair, doesn't it? We've tried everything from alarm clocks that sound like a fire drill to placing our alarms across the room. Yet here we are, still struggling to part with our beloved blankets. And let's not even get started on those who claim to be morning people. They're a whole different breed. But here's the thing, unlike birds, our worms are deadlines, morning meetings, and the dreadful rush hour. And guess what? These worms aren't going anywhere. They're going to be there, waiting for us, regardless of our love affair with sleep. So, if you're tired of the worm always slipping away, stick around. We've got some tips to become the early bird you've always wanted to be. Now, you might think we've discovered some secret sauce to waking up early, and you're absolutely right. But it's not the kind you'd put on your burger. Picture this. You're in a wild goose chase, but the goose is your alarm clock, and you're not awake enough to realize you're the one being chased. That's what it's like when you use an alarm that requires you to get out of bed to turn it off. You might feel like you're in a dream, or perhaps a nightmare, but trust us, the chase is worth it. Then there's the infamous snooze button. We all know it's like an old friend that keeps us cozy in the morning, but it's time to cut ties. Each time you hit snooze, it's like saying yes to another slice of cake when you're already full. It's tempting, but is it really worth it? And let's not forget the importance of not eating heavy meals or drinking caffeine before bedtime. If you've ever tried running a marathon right after a big meal, you'll know it's not a good idea. The same principle applies to sleeping. You can't expect to have a peaceful slumber if your stomach is having a party. Next up, we've got the motivation to wake up early. It's like your own personal cheerleader getting you out of bed and ready for the day. Whether it's the smell of fresh coffee, the prospect of a quiet house, or the anticipation of a sunrise jog, find your cheerleader and let it lead you to victory. Finally, there's the advice against taking afternoon naps. It's like going on a detour in the middle of a journey. Sure, it's enjoyable, but it's going to delay your arrival at the destination. In this case, the destination is a consistent sleep schedule. And remember, like any good sauce, it takes time to perfect. So don't worry if you're not waking up with the sun right away. Now let's talk about the villain in our story, the afternoon nap. A seemingly innocent activity, but it might just be the reason why you're not waking up early. Here's the thing, afternoon naps, they're like the crafty villains in those blockbuster movies. They seem harmless, even charming at first. You're tired, maybe a bit groggy, and they whisper sweet promises of rest and rejuvenation. But behind that seductive allure, they're plotting to throw your entire sleep schedule into chaos. Think about it, you settle in for a quick nap, and the next thing you know, you're waking up 3 hours later, feeling like you've just time-traveled through a wormhole. Your body's internal clock is now as confused as a GPS in a tunnel. And guess what happens the next morning? You're hitting that snooze button harder than a game show contestant hitting the buzzer. So, what's the solution? Well, it's simple. Resist the villainous charm of the afternoon nap. Yes, it's hard, especially when your eyelids feel like they're made of lead, and your couch is inviting you like a warm, cozy cocoon. But remember, every time you resist an afternoon nap, you're one step closer to becoming the early bird who gets the worm, or in this case, a productive and energized start to the day. So next time you're tempted to take that afternoon nap, remember, you might just be letting the villain win. Alright, let's do a quick recap of our early bird's journey, shall we? Picture this, you're a night owl turned early bird, using an alarm clock that's basically a rooster on steroids. To turn it off, you've got to get out of bed and wrestle it into silence, no snooze button in sight. Remember, your bedtime routine is now a sacred ritual. No heavy meals, no caffeine, just sweet dreams and an even sweeter morning routine. Every night you're tucked in bed early, dreaming of the sunrise. And let's not forget about the notorious afternoon nap. You've banished it from your life like a vampire avoiding daylight. No matter how much it beckons, you resist. You've also become a chronotype expert, knowing your body's natural sleep and wake rhythms better than the back of your hand. You're practically a walking, talking, yawning encyclopedia of sleep science. So, armed with these tips, are you ready to take on the challenge and finally become the early bird that gets the worm? Remember, the early bird might get the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. So, don't be too hard on yourself if you're not there yet. After all, we can't all be birds, can we?